So here's my question. How many times have you hit yourself in the face with a hammer? And there is a point to this question. By the way, I have never hit myself in the face with a hammer, at least not that I can remember. Today we're talking about anvils. This anvil, and what I'm about to do with it, as well as how it was made and all of that. Let's take a look at this real quick, just a quick overview. This was made out of 2 pieces of railroad track. Now, this piece of railroad track here, if you can see, whoop, there we go. That was my original chunk, okay? That was about 45 pounds. I got it for about 50 bucks. I think that's including the shipping, off of eBay. This front piece then is a second piece I got through my work for free, which was the best price. And I guess it was 20 pounds, I think. I cut this section out right here with my torch, welded them together as close to through welded as I could. And then there's this. This is what really made this an anvil for me. And what this is a piece of forklift tine. So probably 4140. Cut this piece off of this forklift tine that I found, again, for free, very lucky. Annealed it, put a hardie hole in it and a pritchel hole, welded it on, and then hardened the whole thing. And we're going to jump back in time now and take a look at that whole process pretty quickly. Spend a little bit more time on the actual quench, because it was really cool. So why did I ask that question about hitting yourself in the face with a hammer? Well, really, the point is, we're talking about rebound. Rebound is something that's discussed a lot when you look at anvils, and it has to do with how much work the anvil is doing for you. You can do plenty of work on a softer anvil that has very little rebound, but the most rebound you get is when you hit the anvil face directly. Don't do that, and don't lean over your work. You won't hit yourself in the face with a hammer. And here what I'm doing is just burning out what I couldn't drill out for the hardie hole, and then later on I file it, though I didn't actually show any of that here. That took a long time, it really did. It would have been a lot easier if I'd done this step first, annealing it to get it nice and soft. Did have to do that before I'd be able to weld it, though. And then I cleaned up all the scale, got it nice and smooth. It's another bonus of this particular piece was it was already very flat, and having a very nice flat reference surface on your anvil can make things like straightening knives much easier. Now to get this all well together, I had to do a little editing to the geometry here. Had to make enough room for the nozzle of the welder to be able to reach all the way into the center and weld from the center out to get this as solid as possible. And that groove I put in there made it so that I could sort of walk the cup, as it's called, tilting the nozzle up and down to get a really nice solid weld. Got to preheat it next using my torch. And that's just to get it hot enough to weld well and to stop it from cracking since it's a carbon steel. Carbon steels are very likely to crack if you don't preheat. Nice, solid weld. It looks a little bit messy at the end because I was filling some low spots, but good. Now, after I had it welded on, I noticed that the edge of it was way in the way for getting to the horn. So I cut in this table feature as well, which is also useful geometry, but mostly it was clearance, so I wouldn't smash my hand when using the horn. While I had it all prepped and ready, I figured I'd add some more support to the heel here, both to reinforce it there so it wouldn't bend or break off, and also to add some surface area to the bottom of the anvil so that when you hit on the heel, it doesn't want to pivot. I tested it just with my hand, and slamming down with my hand on the heel there before I extended the bottom of the anvil, it would try and lift up the front. That's no good. I'm drilling out the pritchel hole, and I definitely cut out the part where I broke off the drill bit and made it take 10 times longer than it should have. Try not to do that. And now it's just building up a box out of some of the soft fire brick and putting my 2 forge burners in either side. And then, time for the cavalry to arrive. Thank you so much, my friends, Sean and Blue and Celestia and Ray and my partner Sam. Without your help, I would not have been able to do this, at least not safely. And when playing with a piece of steel that big, that hot, safety is important.
That does look pretty.
We did a dry run of this first, making sure everything would work. I made sure that the chain would fit and hold tight.
It's on there. You should be able to slowly lift. Very good. Walk slowly. Watch the forge
we're good. Watch that. And we're starting to get close to the temperature where it needs to be. Good, good. It looks like it's cooling faster than it is. Up, it's a daisy. And it's already at an angle, so we should be good. This is at least 95% as cool as I thought it would be. While also being cool in ways I didn't expect. That looks really neat. Let's just hold it there for a second, because the cans get narrower as they go down. Okay, bless ya. Could you take one of those pairs of tongs, please? We're just letting it cool. You want to see if we can just set it on the line to this. We go down a little bit further, and then let's say that was. I don't know.
That came from in there.
Trash can?
Interesting. Oh, it was a chain link slipping over the angle iron. That's ooh, that looks good. Now with a piece of steel this thick.
Yeah.
We're using water because
Yeah, it wasn't the chain slipping. Keep your eye on the side of the anvil in this next clip. You'll see
If
it.
it was, I would need to temper this back. So, it is not glass hard. It is not as hard as a knife, but it is a heck of a lot harder than when I started, because when we started, it would just cut in like butter. It hardly even makes a sound. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
There it is. Nice big crack. I was able to grind this out and weld it solidly from the center out, and it's not a problem, but oh boy.
So now I have a hard face. It doesn't completely skate a file everywhere, but files are pretty hard, so whatever. The overall weight of this thing is now 85 pounds, and it does a good deal of work, but it's too flexible. So to make this better, I'm gonna add some steel to it. I went to the metal store to get some stuff for my next project, which is gonna be super cool, and found in their little offcut pile 6" by 1/2 inch by, I think this is a foot long, pieces of steel. It's real close to the size for fitting in there. Like, really close. But then let's look down at what's under that. Underneath here we have a custom fabricated stand. Pretty simple, little tripod. But as you can see, it's on a piece of wood. And that wood was on some caulking, and that's to reduce the shock. Now that's all well and good, but that wood is not holding up well. Now, what can I do to fix this? To improve this situation? I'm very excited about this, can you tell? Let me show you what I picked up. This is a 1" thick, 10" wide, and 14" long piece of mild steel. I'm not getting any work done, I'm just talking to a camera. I haven't even explained why I have this yet. So what am I going to use this for? I'm not going to add it onto the anvil. I'm going to add it onto the stand. I'm going to replace that piece of wood to add 40 pounds to what's probably a 15 to 20 pound stand already. Add 36 pounds to the side of the anvil and increase its rigidity. And out it pops.
Fixing the stand, making it more rigid like that and more massive, will absolutely help the anvil do more work. And then after I do that, adding steel to the sides will better support the face of the anvil, that big mass of steel up there, and stop it from flexing as much. And even though it's mild steel, it's going to be 1" thick on both sides that I'm adding, and that makes a big difference.
Absolutely no way am I actually getting 20 amps. There you go, some nice lumpy, gross looking welds. Why so lumpy? Well, same reason why I didn't record doing the welding. There's a problem with my welder, or the circuit here, I'm not sure which. And it blows the breaker about, 5 seconds into welding. Just some quick tacks. Did not expect that to blow the breaker.
But now let's see how long it does take to blow that breaker.
I mean, it's the first one. The circuit's cold right now, but that's usually blown by now. Ah, okay. Whatever.
And 10 seconds later.
There it is. And now each time it gets shorter and shorter. Nice and solidly welded all the way around. That took forever.
Now I gotta make some brackets to bolt this down real quick, and I decided to weld some bolts on and, you know, bracket it from the top rather than drilling through, because that's an inch of steel, and drilling through the anvil just wasn't happening as well. Also, with the size stock I had available, it was easier to just drift these holes out rather than drilling larger holes, and it's more fun too.
2 of these, and then I gotta bend them. I thought to myself, I could do this hot, sure, but how would I hold it? You know, this is 1/4 inch mild steel. I could probably just stick it in a vise and beat it into shape real quick. And I was right.
Now I'm gonna take the weld down where I have to and leave all the rest of it. There's no point in grinding it. That weld's getting taken down just so I can weld those bolts directly on. And then I'm just gonna pop the brackets on and let the remaining shape come from just tightening them down really hard, which worked fine. Especially on the back one, the shape of the bottom of the anvil is very irregular there. There it goes. That's really solid.
Ta-da!
Measuring this out now, I'm going to get one of these 2 plates to fit in under the edge of the railroad track, because that way it'll be flush with the side and the next one can just go flat up against it, touching all the way along. And the way I've spaced these out as well, I will only need to grind the top weld, and I don't need to grind those welds on the inside part of the railroad track, which is really nice. Again, preheating it. It's really fun doing that after you've been doing a bunch of grinding, by the way, because all the grinding dust like flares up all pretty. But it's not all smooth sailing.
So that was a bad sound. Okay, it just broke a tack on the far side. Made my heart stop though. That was real loud, right next to my head. Jeez. There's always a small chance that I'm going to do this and the whole thing's just going to crack all apart, and that would really be awful. This video might end with me buying a new anvil, because I don't know when to stop pushing my luck. Oh boy. I'm going to hit this with some heat and see if I can't stop it from cracking all its pieces. Well, it stopped making noises, so who knows?
Just getting it all welded up as best I can, and you'll notice I'm not having to stop nearly so often now, and that's because I did fix my breaker problem and got 30 amps to work with instead of definitely not 20.
There we go. Welded nicely on the first one on the bottom and nice and solid on the top, peening it over to stop it from cracking.
Let's just take it for granted that I did that grinding.
It's still pretty warm, but not warm enough.
And then that preheating. And this went much smoother. It did take a long time, but... Ooh, shiny. Now this is one of those hidden costs of making your own anvil. I used 2 10-pound spools of wire and 2.5 tanks of gas, in addition to the steel cost. That is not an insignificant cost.
So it's not pretty, but it is done. There you go. Very strange look to it, very straight up and down. And those welds, I mean, some of them are pretty. So you can see I'm doing multiple passes to make sure I'm getting as good of a bond as I can, and that leads to not the prettiest final look. But the goal here is not to be pretty, it's just to be pretty solid. Just by letting the hammer drop onto the surface, you can already tell it has much more rebound than it did before because it's more supported. Watch the difference now. Pretty good. Now watch on the end here. It's a lot more energy returned to the hammerhead to kick it back up and keep it going. If I were to use this anvil for 10 years, I would expect the horn to fall off. I would expect something in the inside to crack. But I'm probably not going, hopefully not going to be using it that long. I'm happy with it. I want to give it a test. One heat. I'd say that's a dramatic improvement.
Thank you all so much, as always, for watching this far, and please, if you can, give it a like, subscribe, share it with some friends, I don't know. And if you've made it this far, what do you think? 200 subscribers, I set up a Patreon account? That might be a good idea. Anyway, tune in next time.